If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we are back live in studio. Thank you guys for being patient. We got a lot to cover. Joe Biden's diagnosis. The House has passed the tax cut bill as well as no tax on tips. We have some SCOTUS news as well as news on the COVID vaccine. So we have a lot to talk about. But hearing what happened last night, where two Israeli embassy workers, one of whom is American, were gunned down in an act of terrorism. I mean, that just, it tore my heart up to see that we still have, and we will continue to sadly have such hatred, such anti-Semitism, such disgusting evil in our country and other countries. And I don't understand why, we can't get this to stop. So just to recap what happened, an American and an Israeli were shot coming out of the Capitol Jewish Museum last night. They were with two others when the suspect opened fire, killing two of them. The victims are identified as Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram. Law enforcement officials, according to CBS News, described the attack as targeted, and the suspect was shouting "Free Palestine" as he was being detained. I think he tried to discard the weapon, and they were able to recover the weapon. So the shooting is being investigated as a hate crime, according to law enforcement. Sarah Lynn Milgram was from Kansas, and Yaron Lashinsky is Israeli, former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. I'm sorry. Yaron Lashinsky was Israeli, was actually supposed to be engaged. He was, I believe, he had purchased a ring to propose to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem. And this couple went to the evening in Washington, went to the, the cultural center, and comes out at 9:08 at night just to be gunned down. Now, this happened at about, as I said, looks like 9:08. The shooting happened near an FBI field office in the heart of the Capitol. And the suspect is 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago. He was initially observed pacing back and forth outside of the museum. Then he approached a group of four people, produced a handgun, shot two of the victims. He entered the museum immediately following the shooting, was arrested by museum security. He tried to discard the weapon. They got a hold of it, and he was screaming "Free Palestine." Now, this is what I just don't understand. We have people calling out and saying, "Look, this is not in no way. This is we don't stand for this. We stand together as a people. We are not going to tolerate anti-Semitism." When you look at some of our Congress people, Ocasio-Cortez spoke out against it. But from what we understand, we haven't heard anything from Representative Ilhan Omar. And from what we understand, when she was asked about it, she's like, "I'm going to go for now." We just had two innocent people gunned down in Washington, D.C., under the premise of a pro-Hamas or anti-Israel sentiment. And we have a representative of our country going, "I'm not going to address it now." Really? Ocasio-Cortez spoke out about it. Other people from the squad, Representative Ayanna Pressley, said this is unconscionable and unacceptable. We don't have a united front against terrorism. And, why are people hating Israelis, hating Jews? If you have an issue with Israel trying to get their hostages back and address the October 7th attack or whatever, you take it up with Israel. You take it up with Hamas because Hamas is the one that started it. Hamas is the one that has the hostages. You don't gun down two people of Jewish descent in Washington, D.C. You don't gun down anybody. If you really are about having a Palestinian homeland, you don't murder. I mean, there are, and from what we understand, this gentleman has been very, much of an activist, but you don't gun down innocent people. If you are really for the individuals in Gaza who are being ruled over by Hamas, the last thing you want to advocate for is killing. And Israel isn't there. Israel pulled out in 2006? Hamas has been running things over there. And to think that somebody could think that gunning down two people walking out of a museum is going to help the cause, you're wrong. People are even more united. Right? We don't shoot and kill innocent civilians that have absolutely nothing to do. And I know people are going to say, well, they all do. They all do. What it is it's hate. If somebody at all tries to justify this or not even respond and speak out, they're disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And to have such hatred over somebody's lineage or color or race or demographics. And I told you this, if you think you're on the safe side because you're not a part of a community that gets hated, the hate's going to turn. You saw that with the Tesla owners. Here you were thinking you could buy a Tesla, you could buy a Stubber type of truck, and you were on one side, so everybody's going to, leave you alone and not cancel you. And now all of a sudden, the same people that you thought was on your side are now keying your cars or asking or wanting to destroy your cars. If you allow hate to persist like this and let it go unchecked, the hate's going to turn to you anytime. And everybody goes, oh, but at least, we're not this group, so we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. No. Because these disgusting individuals are going to find reasons to hate. Once they run out of hating once they run out of hatred for the Jews, they're going to hate another group of people. That's how hate happens. People are always trying to find enemies. They're always trying to find, I'm not saying all people, because we have a lot of good people out there. But this was disgusting. I pray for the families. And I pray this BS stops. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. Totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people. tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions: Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So while I was gone over the weekend, we were told the news that many of us have already heard that former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with aggressive form of prostate cancer. My phone went off the hook. People were asking me, wait a second, wasn't his prostate just checked? How did this happen? And by metastatic prostate cancer, we're being told it went to his bones. So we are talking a very highly aggressive late stage diagnosis. And so I thought I would kind of break this down for you. And I apologize, I wasn't on air a few days ago when many of you had questions. So I'll try to answer as many of them. So the statement we got from his personnel office said he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. They say, quote, last week, President Joe Biden was seen for a new finding of a prostate nodule after experiencing increasing urinary symptoms. On Friday, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, characterized by a Gleason score of 9, which we'll explain, grade group 5, with metastasis to the bone. Now, the statement says, while this represents a more aggressive form of the disease, the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management. The president and his family are reviewing treatment options with his physicians. Now, there has been many, conjectures and theories that he had this the whole time, and only now they're reporting it. I'm not here to necessarily weigh in on that, but as a physician, to be told that there's a nodule, get it biopsied, understand that it is hormone responsive, that takes some time. This wasn't an overnight diagnosis. Not to mention metastasis to the bones causes bone pain. And so a big question people have is, has it metastasized to the brain? Did President Biden get a brain scan? Now, prostate cancer will usually go to the bone when it metastasizes, but it can also go to the brain. And so what an MRI, which we have been asking for years, would that have possibly picked this up sooner? On his last physical exam that was done in 2024, I thought they did a PSA, and I don't think that was, I apologize, it's been taken down, so I don't have his PSA results, but the PSA, the prostate-specific antigen, is a test to look at, which helps us follow if there's prostate cancer. Many of us doctors run it in your 40s. The USPSTF says this is a conversation you have with your doctor to see what the best plan is in terms of being screened. But I would get one in somebody's 40s, and then I would test it again a year or two later to see if it rose. And if you saw the PSA, which is specific for the prostate and will rise if somebody has cancer, if let's say normal is 0 to 4 and somebody was at a 1.2, but then the next year they were at a 2.7. Okay, there's growth there. There's a rise in the PSA. Somebody needs to determine, is that an infection? Is that inflammation? Is it prostatitis? Is it prostate cancer? So if it goes up, more than at least a half a point in a year, you want to wonder what's going on. And so we do serial PSAs in people who are high risk. When they're low risk, some of us will get a baseline. If it's under 1, that's a really good sign. And then we might check it a few years later, depending on your family history, depending on your urinary symptoms. We used to always see you in person and do a rectal exam. With the rectal exam, we would check your prostate, check for nodules, check for masses, check for blood in the stool, because there would be some, on the glove, there'd be some stool. And then we would check it on a hemocolt card to see if there was blood in the stool. Not to mention, we would check the integrity of the sphincter, and also, don't be giggling, this is important stuff. And we would make sure that you didn't have signs of incontinence, neurological disease, look for melanomas in the buttock area. There was a lot we would do. I understand the average person doesn't like to go into the doctor and isn't getting themselves examined, but you might want to. There's so much we do rather than just checking the prostate. So the fact that a nodule was found incidentally when his last physical was last February, yes, it could be a fast-growing cancer, but it still takes time to go to the bones. And microscopically, something should have been picked up. And he should have had a physical in 2025. I mean, I understand he had the physical in February of 2024. I'm sure somebody should be still his doctor. He is the former president of the United States. The Gleason score basically is it's a scale where we look at the cells under the microscope and then we grade it. So his Gleason score of 9 is very aggressive. 7, 8, 9, 10, those are aggressive scores. So basically they look at the cells. And if the cells under the microscope look more like normal cells, they get a lower group number. The groups are ranged from 1 to 5. 5 means these cells look very changed and cancerous. And so what they do is they take the 2 highest scores of the grouping. So let's say you have in one view 3, where, yeah, there's irregularity. There's some abnormal cells, but not a lot of them. And then in another view, you're at the 4 range. Your Gleason score is adding those 2. So 3 plus 4 is 7. Now that looks like it's a more advanced form. For Biden's Gleason score to be 9, that suggests he had a 4 and a 5, which were higher grades. Because the other 2 numbers wouldn't add up to 9. You don't have a 6 and a 3 because it doesn't go up to 6. So either way, a 9, the highest score is 10, 9 is a high score. So what could be done? Well, they could do chemotherapy, they could do hormone therapy. They said it's a hormone sensitive type. You know how some cancers, HER positive for breast cancer, there's estrogen sensitive, and then you have the triple negative, the cancers that might not be able to be treated with hormone therapy. So they're able to deduce what type of cancer and what treatments could be best. And they can't treat this. I mean, look, we had, former President Jimmy Carter, may he rest in peace, have melanoma to the brain. So they can't treat this. But now the question, comes up, if the president's doctors miss this, what is my doctor missing? And so some people think that either his team of doctors just really dropped the ball, or he has a great team of doctors and nobody shared this with us. Yeah, and there's a lot of debate. How much information should we have of our public officials, and how much privacy do they get? Well, if something is inhibiting their ability to serve, we have a right to know. And if they want the privacy, but they're struggling to serve, they could keep their privacy, just don't serve. Now, they're saying that this prostate cancer was just found now. This is a 2025 brand new diagnosis, brand new occurrence. It's, a lot of us doctors are scratching our heads. Usually for cancer to metastasize to the bone, there are fast prostate cancers, but damn, that's fast. I mean, if you had bone metastasis, you know about it. I mean, it hurts. It's, and I know people go, well, I have chronic aches and pains. That's why we x-ray. People are like, doctors like to order so many tests. But, one of the reasons why we do x-ray is if you're having pain, we want to make sure it's not a metastasis to the bone where the cancer spread. So, yeah, we're going to want to order some imaging. The discussion of cover up, where everybody was trying to cover up, the American people saw, Joe Biden's struggles. We saw it. And, Karine Jean-Pierre, she tried to do the best job she could, but her orders were X, Y, and Z. Personally, she should have kept to the integrity of journalism. but her job was to be their spokesperson, and so she just fed what they gave her. And everybody said, "Oh, he's lucid, he's fine." But now, when you hear this, the big question is who are his doctors, and does President Trump have the same team of doctors? Any doctor who feels like they have to practice to keep their job should immediately quit that job. If you don't feel like you could recommend a mini mental status exam or a cognitive evaluation or an MRI of the brain or imaging, and your patient really needs it, then you as a doctor have a duty to either, one, explain to them the risks and then have them sign something that it's against medical advice, or you transfer them to a doctor that can do their care. I've had to transfer patients saying, look, you need a doctor who works with you. Before telemedicine and all that, we had patients who were like, I could only be seen on the weekend. And I had opened on the weekend. I was one of the very few doctors that was open on the weekend for them to see. And they were like, no, I don't want to come in. I can't even come in on the weekend. So I just need you to handle this by phone. I go, then you need a different doctor. You need a different doctor who could do medicine over the phone, and your physicals over the phone. I can't do your pap smears over the phone. Sorry. So I pray for Joe Biden. I hope he recovers. But yes, there are a lot of questions. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Well, after years of questioning, why people aren't being told about COVID vaccine risks and why there isn't more transparency and warnings, there has been finally a change. The FDA is now going to require COVID-19 vaccines from Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna to use expanded warning labels with more information about the risk of a rare heart condition after vaccination. CNN Health is reporting that myocarditis risk, pericarditis risk, which we spoke about for years after we found patients to be having those issues, not all of them, but a rare side effect of the vaccine, finally, the vaccine's labels are going to have a much more expanded warning, especially to certain age groups. Now, the previous labels did warn of it, but now but it took a long time for us to, get that sort of transparency. And all we heard from the CDC and the FDA at the time is, well, COVID could also cause the same, which it can. COVID could cause myocarditis, pericarditis, absolutely. But when Canada had limited when Canada had limited the Moderna vaccine and asked young men not to use the Moderna vaccine, and when you saw other countries limiting the use, saying maybe use Pfizer, Moderna might have a higher risk of this, it took a long time for America to start to follow suit. So research is showing that the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines have been effective against COVID, and I do believe they are. I think the most effectiveness is the combo of the vaccine or artificial related immunity as well as the natural immunity. However, at the time when vaccines came out, we were having people just consumed by this virus. See, now many of us have built up a resistance to it. Thank God. But at the time, and I wasn't going to lie to you guys. People were dropping dead. It was bad. I understand the numbers might have been skewed because if nobody actually broke down who started really healthy, got COVID and died versus he was in a car accident or he had a heart attack or he had pneumonia and on the side he also had COVID. I understand the numbers could be skewed, but make no mistake, COVID was killing people. Absolutely was. And we did need a vaccine. And I was very, very excited that Trump worked early on to get the vaccine and Biden worked early on to get the vaccine. Where they got me and where I put my foot down is don't mandate it. Offer it. But the ridiculous approach that government and local government had and some doctors where I'm not even going to see you as a patient if you don't get your shot. And the lies they were spewing on, well, look, if you get the vaccine, you're not going to spread COVID. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Of course, you could still, what are you talking about? I mean, of course you could still spread COVID, just like with the flu. You might not have as bad a flu illness, and you might not get the flu. And if you don't get the flu, then you're spreading it less. But you could still be You could still be infected. You could still spread it. And so when doctors were telling me, that's why I originally got the vaccine. So if you remember, first and foremost, I wanted to make sure the individuals who really needed it, the most vulnerable, got it. Because people were fighting to get it. People were lying to get it. People were waiting outside the garbage bin of pharmacies to see if they were going to be throwing out biohazard shots so they could grab them. There was a desperation. And I'm like, look, guys, I see some patients, but most of my work is media and telemedicine. So whoever needs the shot first can get it. That's fine. But then doctors are like, Daliah, we need you to get it. People don't trust it. If you think it's going to help save lives, you can't sit here and not have it. And so I made the decision, okay, well, I don't want to get it before somebody else can, but fine. And I was very public about it. I videotaped it, and I was very honest. I didn't have that many side effects when I first got it, but the booster, that hit me for a loop. Left arm pain, chest pain, breast swelling, underarm swelling. I was done after the boosters. If, God forbid, COVID makes a very lethal comeback, I might consider another booster. But right now, for me, I'm going to leave it between me and my doctor. But the myocarditis risk, was a significant one. A friend of mine's son, we were at a conference, and a friend of mine's son had called having chest pain. And so, they quickly got an EKG, et cetera. And he's like, I wonder if he's having pericarditis. And I go, did he have a vaccine recently? And so I don't ever know what ended up happening of that. The son got better. But, these young men having that increased risk was scary. So when parents were like, look, I don't know if I want to take my child in to get the vaccine. Meanwhile, everybody's like, well, then we're not going to take care of you, or you're not going to get your child can't go to school. Your child can't go to a Raiders game. Your child can't. Are you kidding me? Listen, I support there being vaccines. I'm very grateful we have vaccines. I'm grateful we have the polio vaccine and the tetanus vaccine. And I'm grateful we have COVID vaccines. But when you guys censored me, when you shut me up, when you forced mandates and lied about herd immunity. Now, somebody can say, but Dr. Daliah, they didn't know. They thought there was going to be herd immunity. So they did the best they could. No. That wasn't the best you could. People were getting kicked out of restaurants, getting kicked out of school. You fired doctors. You fired military. You fired teachers. You fired nurses. Nurses, remember all those memes where nurses were superheroes because they were there coming into work while other people got to stay home and watch Netflix? These nurses came in, were there all the way through 2019, January 2020, February 2020, March 2020, April 2020, May 2020. They're on the front line being exposed. Obviously built up antibodies. And when they begged to not get the vaccine and say, look, just draw my blood. See that I have antibodies. They got fired. That was not the best they could. That was BS. This was control. This was, we want to make people follow and follow suit and follow orders. And so, listen, anybody saying vaccines don't have risks is wrong. Anybody saying vaccines carry nanotechnology for China, I think, is also wrong. There's a fine balance. If you need protection, and we had a lot of young people who died from COVID. Well, I don't know what their health vulnerabilities were, and I wish we would figure that out, but there was no time to figure that out. Who was at risk? But if you are at risk of any illness that can, cause you to, like shingles, we definitely recommend taking advantage of the vaccines that are out there. But nobody should say that the vaccines are 100% safe. Nobody should minimize the discussion of there being side effects. And the reason why is, as a medical student, and then as a resident, and then as a practicing physician, I would lose my job if I didn't give you informed consent. If I was talking to you about a procedure and I was about to make you sign something saying I told you about the risks and benefits, and I didn't convey all the risks and have it listed in the paper you were signing, that's malpractice. These doctors that get sued, you're like, but the patient signed consent. But if that side effect wasn't listed, then they didn't give consent. So we take consent seriously in medicine. That's why I don't understand kids being offered transgender transitioning without parents. All right. When you're under 18, you can't give your own consent unless, of course, you're pregnant and emancipated. You need an adult to help give consent because the adult could read the verbiage and could help ask and understand what to ask about the risks and benefits. So I hope the FDA, continues to do what is needed where they do explain that there are cases of side effects that patients should be aware of. 1-877-DOC-Daliah. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So President Trump wanted his big, beautiful bill passed by Memorial Day weekend. That was what Senator Johnson, or I'm sorry, Republican Mike Johnson had promised that they were hopefully going to get this pushed through by Memorial Day weekend. Speaker of the House. However, it still has to go through the Senate, and then the Senate has to approve it, and then Trump has to sign it. So this big, beautiful bill, which I'm not really a big fan of the name on, has a lot of interesting things. That it's 1,000 pages long, and it got through the first hurdle in the House. Barely squeaked by. I think it was like 215 to 214, but it has some interesting stuff. So first and foremost, it does extend the Trump tax cuts. So if the 2017 Trump tax cuts expired and it didn't get extended, many households would see their taxes go up. So that was imperative that those tax cuts done in his first term were able to be extended and move on. One of the biggest cornerstones, not maybe the cornerstone, but a big popular part of Trump's campaigning was the no taxes on tips. It was so popular that even Kamala Harris took that on. And so according to NPR, the bill includes temporary changes designed to make good on this, including no taxes on overtime earned between 2026 and 2028. The plan would also allow Americans to deduct interest on car loans, but only if the car is made in the U.S. It would also increase the child tax credit to $2,500 until 2028. But those are for people with Social Security numbers. And I believe that's meaning they're not illegal immigrants, but those that were able to qualify for Social Security numbers. And then after 2028, it would drop to 2,000 and then grow with inflation. They said it would also allow a higher standard deduction to 2028 and not tax Social Security benefits. They said there would be an extra $4,000 deduction for people over the age of 65, phasing out for people at higher income. So no taxing Social Security, no taxing tips and overtime was kind of popular. Now, some people say who would be against it if both Kamala Harris and Trump wanted it. Well, there are some individuals who make hundreds of thousands of dollars on tip-related jobs. And so them not paying taxes at all, worries people. But the average person, like when I made tips or whatever, I mean, I was barely supporting myself. And so getting your tip, and the other problem is many people with their tips, there's not really a system where they can report it. I know a lot of payroll is saying, look, we'll give you your tips on the paycheck. You put the tips, enter the tips in, and people don't want that because they want to pocket the cash and not pay taxes. So it already was a little bit of a mess. And so it's interesting because there were some people going, that's not that big a deal. And it's like, but don't you make tips? Why you're going to be saving a lot of money on taxes? Well, if they're not reporting their tips anyway. So it was kind of moot, except for those valets and those in the high-end cocktail market, bartending, who make hundreds of thousands of dollars of tips, or who employers report it. This helps. The SALT. They say one of the thorniest issues during the negotiations was state and local tax deduction, known as SALT. And so states like California and New York, the 2017 tax cuts capped the SALT deduction at $10,000. The House will now lift that cap to $40,000 for married couples with incomes up to $500,000. So a lot of people are like, wait a second, but if we're already paying more in these higher states, how do we how do we kind of offset that? So that helps them with that. Something that has been debated is work requirements for Medicaid. Now, we don't have a lot of details on what they're going to do. Basically, from what we understand, being told by NPR, beginning at the end of 2026, if you are an adult with no children and no disabilities and you want Medicaid, you will be required to work 80 hours per month to qualify for benefits. So 80 hours per month is less than part-time, 20 hours per week. Now, this work requirement has been something that has been debated and starting to become more popular because Medicaid isn't Medicare. Medicare are people with disabilities. If you have disabilities, you get Medicare. Medicaid is if you're low income. So Medicaid is there if you're working and your job isn't providing health insurance, or you don't have enough money for these Obamacare plans where they're thousands of dollars a month and the tax deductions and the subsidies aren't covering, you could still be on a health insurance while you're working. But for individuals like the Tsarnaev brothers who were behind the Boston Marathon bombing, able-bodied, getting government benefits, why isn't there a requirement to get the government benefit? Now, these are people without children. For those people with children, taking care of children, homemakers, they could still get Medicaid without working. But for people who are able-bodied, no kids, why are you home collecting this? It's supposed to supplement what your employer isn't giving you. But if you're not working, and you don't even have to work full time, it's part time. So getting people back to work is huge. They also want to stop waste, fraud, and abuse. The enrollment period is once a year. They shifted it to every 6 months. And then you have to verify your residency and additional income. So the problem they have is some people are collecting Nevada Medicaid dollars when they don't live in Nevada anymore, or vice versa. And so those things would change. In terms of SNAP, I don't know if they have the actual food changes in terms of junk food. I think what's happening with SNAP is states individually are starting to say, look, you're not going to be able to buy soda pop and crackers and cookies and junk food with SNAP benefits. It's supposed to be for the healthy meats, lean meats, milk, grains, fresh food. You could still get cereal and other things on SNAP, but some states are really starting to limit the candy and the cookies and the soda pop. So I think that's good. I don't think that the government can, but they have outlined some reforms. Some might also include work requirements for able-bodied enrollees. They're also going to lift the debt ceiling, and there's so much more. It's 1,000 pages, this bill. I mean, there is a lot to it, and I'm looking at it. Somebody had asked, what about the student loans? So Section 30025, I'm reading that now, of student loans. This is why these things are so difficult. This is what they talk about student loan servicing. It's included in this, but it's not necessarily talking about the wiping out student loans. It says additional mandatory, they go first, paragraph 1 of Section 458A of the Higher Education Act of 1965 is amended to read as follows. So what they did is they amended a portion of the Higher Education Act. So they say additional mandatory funds for fiscal years 2025 and 2026 for each of the fiscal years 2025 and 2026 shall be available to the Secretary in addition to any other amounts appropriated under any Appropriations Act for administrative costs under the, I don't even understand what this is saying, for administrative costs under this part and Part B, and out of any money in the Treasury not otherwise appropriated, funds to be obligated for administrative costs under this part and Part B, including the costs of the direct student loan programs under this part, not to exceed $500 million for each fiscal year. So I guess they're talking about administrative costs. So these bills, they have so much other stuff. I thought I saw something about a floating deck, like a floating boat deck. I need to read this. It's 1,000 pages, so I haven't gotten through it all. But, I don't want to say they're ahead of schedule because, it's already Thursday, right before Memorial Day weekend. But they are getting moving. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased. bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.